WH questions in Igbo. In this lesson, you will learn how to ask the who, where, when, which, what, why, and how questions in Igbo. For the interrogative who, we use kedụ onye, or we use olee onye, or we use onye. For example, who ate my food? Kedụ onye riri nri m? Or we ask olee onye riri nri m? We can also ask onye riri nri m? Now, when who is not an interrogative, for example, when we say, tell me who ate my food, in Igbo, it is gwam onye riri nri m. Gwam onye riri nri m. So as you can see, we use onye for who, and that is what we use. We don't say gwam kedụ onye, and we don't say gwam olee onye. So we don't use the interrogative kedụ and olee. We simply say onye, tell me who ate my food. Gwam onye riri nri m. The interrogative where. Where is kedụ ebe? Or you say olee ebe. You can also say ebe. For example, where is John? You say kedụ ebe John no. You can also ask olee ebe John no. Or you can ask ebe ka John no. When where is not an interrogative, for example, when you say I know where John is. I know where John is. In Igbo, you say amam ebe John no. Or you say mma ebe John no. They are the same thing. So note that we don't use kedụ and olee if it is not a question. So here we don't say mma kedụ ebe John no. We don't say that. We just use ebe without kedụ and without olee. The interrogative when. When is kedụ oge, or we say olee mgbe. Some northern dialects prefer kedụ oge, and in the south you hear olee mgbe. And you can also hear a combination like kedụ mgbe, or you may hear olee oge. So let's take this example. When did you eat? Kedụ oge ị riri nri? Or you ask olee mgbe ị riri nri? Now, when is not an interrogative, you don't use kedụ and you don't use olee. For example, when you say, tell me when you ate. In Igbo, you say, gwam oge ị riri nri. Or if you prefer to use mgbe, it would be gwam mgbe ị riri nri. As you can see, we don't say gwam olee mgbe ị riri nri. No, just say gwam mgbe ị riri nri. The interrogative which. In Igbo, which is kedụ nke or olee nke. For example, which do you want? Kedụ nke ị chọrọ? Or you ask, olee nke ị chọrọ? Now, when you're specific about the question, when you're mentioning the item, for example, when you say, which book do you want? Which book do you want? It would be, kedụ akwụkwọ nke ị chọrọ? Kedụ akwụkwọ nke ị chọrọ? So the item will come between kedụ and nke. So if it's orange, which orange do you want? It will be kedụ oroma nke ị chọrọ? Which house do you want? Would be kedụ ụlọ nke ị chọrọ? So the item will come between kedụ and nke. Like the other interrogatives, when which is not an interrogative. For example, when you say, tell me which book you want. Tell me which book you want. In Igbo, you say, gwa m akwụkwọ nke ị chọrọ. Gwa m akwụkwọ nke ị chọrọ. So you don't use kedụ and you don't use olee if it is not a question. The interrogative what. What in Igbo is kedụ ihe, or we can ask olee ihe. We can also ask gịnị. And now remember, there are so many dialects in Igbo. For example, some dialects, instead of saying olee, they will say nde. Some for gịnị, instead of gịnị, they will say nene. And there are hundreds of them. But for this lesson, we are using the Igbo Izugbe dialect. So we are focusing on kedụ, olee, and gịnị, which every Igbo person understands, regardless of their dialect. So this is the three we are focusing on, but there are other ones that you may come across. Let's take this example. What did you do? Kedụ ihe ị mere? Or olee ihe ị mere? Or gịnị ka ị mere? What is your name? Kedụ aha gị? Kedụ aha gị? So this is simplified form of kedụ ihe bụ aha gị. Kedụ ihe bụ aha gị sounds too long, so just use this short and simple form, which is kedụ aha gị? What is your name? You can also ask gịnị bụ aha gị? Gịnị bụ aha gị? Now, when what is not an interrogative, you don't use kedụ, you don't use olee, and you don't use gịnị. For example, when you say, tell me what you did. Gwa m ihe ị mere. So you use ihe and ihe alone. You don't use kedụ. You don't say, gwa m kedụ ihe ị mere. That is not right. Use gwa m ihe ị mere. So don't use the interrogative kedụ, olee, and gịnị if you're not asking a question. The interrogative why. Why in Igbo is kedụ ihe and then G. Remember, for what, we said what is kedụ ihe. Now for why, we are saying why is kedụ ihe and then G has to be in the question. G is the auxiliary verb for reason. Reason. So when you see G in a question, it's asking for the reason. It's asking why. So kedụ ihe G is like saying, what is the reason? What is the reason for why? So kedụ ihe G. You can also ask olee ihe and then G has to be in the question. Or gịnị ka. of course, G. For example, why did you eat my food? Kedụ ihe ijiri rie nri m? Now here you see kedụ ihe and then jiri. Jiri is jiri here because it's past, like you've already eaten the food. If it's in the future, then it has to be G, not jiri. But jiri here indicates that you've already eaten the food. So, kedụ ihe ijiri rie nri m? You can also ask, olee ihe ijiri rie nri m? Or, gịnị ka ijiri rie nri m? When why is not an interrogative, like when you say, tell me why you ate my food. So in Igbo you say, gwa m ihe ijiri rie nri m. Gwa m ihe ijiri rie nri m. So you don't use kedụ, olee, or gịnị. You don't use kedụ, olee, or gịnị if it's not a question. How. The interrogative how is kedụ ka or olee otu. You'd hear more of olee otu in the south. The northern dialects would prefer kedụ ka. Example, how do you do? Kedụ ka ị mere? Or you ask, olee otu ị mere? When how is not an interrogative, you don't use kedụ or olee. For example, to say, show him how to do it. Gosi ya ka esi eme ya. Or you say, zi ya otu esi eme ya. So gosi and zi mean the same thing. They are like synonyms. And so you can say this in 4 different ways. So if you want to use zi, you can say zi ya otu esi eme ya. Or you can also say zi ya ka esi eme ya. If you want to use gosi, you can say gosi ya ka esi eme ya. Or you can also say gosi ya otu esi eme ya. For the interrogative how many or how much, we use olee. Olee is not the same thing as olee. Olee has 1 E. Olee has 2 E's. So olee is used for asking how many. Now if you want, you can bring in the interrogative words kedụ and olee. So if you bring in kedụ, olee has to come in the question, somewhere in the question. If you use olee, you also have to bring in olee somewhere to indicate that you're asking how many. But for the how many and how much questions, you don't need kedụ and you don't need olee. Just olee, O-L-E, is sufficient. For example, how many oranges do you want? Oroma ole ka ị chọrọ? You can see this is simple and short without kedụ and olee. If you had wanted to use kedụ, it would be kedụ oroma ole ị chọrọ? Or you say olee oroma ole ị chọrọ? So these are longer forms and they are not necessary. So just use olee without kedụ to ask your how many questions. Again, for money, for how much, you say how much do you want? Or say how much money do you want? Ego ole. Ego is money. Ego ole ka ị chọrọ? Ego ole ka ị chọrọ? As you can see, this is short and simple without kedụ and without olee. Same with when you're just using how many but not in a question form. So you're saying, tell me how many oranges you want. Gwam oroma ole ị chọrọ. Gwam oroma ole ị chọrọ. Okay? Gwan ka ọ dị. Bye.